There we go. Just testing the chat one. Cool. Singapore, Team Singapore. I was enjoying Singapore playing Hong Kong yesterday at the National Stadium. Singapore were a little bit unlucky. They should have got the win, actually. It was nice to cheer them on, actually. I don't think we have anyone in here from Hong Kong, or at least calling in from Hong Kong, that is. But if you are, maybe you also saw the game. Hi, Marcella. See you jumping in there. A few more. Awesome. Seem, are you in Cambodia at the moment, or are you somewhere else? Yep, nice. And, Heidi as well. Welcome, Heidi. Where are you calling in from, Heidi? I think it's Singapore, right? But just to double check. Great, welcome. Cool. Okay, so we'll get kick off now. We've got quite a few people in the room. Um, as always, with just the little kind of small house rules, I suppose. At the bottom on the Zoom screen, you can see there's a Q&A button. So if you want to ask questions in there, you can. I would recommend that you use the Q&A button instead of the chat if you want to ask a question. If you just want to add comments, of course, feel free to use the chat. But the Q&A ones, it directly kind of comes up and we can answer them. Um, this particular session, so some of the recent weeks, we've been doing some guest speakers talking on a particular topic. And of course, there is a particular topic this week around freelancers and how you can succeed as a freelancer. But we're going to be doing it between Yasos and myself. But we want everyone to feel involved. So, for sure, like if there's questions you've got, it'd be really great if we could also, unmute you and we have that discussion as well so that it's, yeah, I suppose everyone probably gets a bit sick of hearing my voice for the whole time as well. So we'll try to mix that up a little bit. And yeah, by all means, if there's any questions, raise your hand or feel free to ask it in the Q&A. And yeah, we want to make this a bit more interactive. We've got other sessions on the horizon for you. We know there's a public holiday coming up locally, but we've got another session planned next Wednesday. And then there's a couple more on the horizon as well. But we're also really open to any feedback. So if you've got something, a particular topic you'd like to focus on, or if this freelancer topic maybe gives you an idea of something you'd like to go into detail on, please do let us know. We're happy to put something together. Okay, cool. So let's kick off. So the topic was to succeed as a freelancer, and the sort of sub headline of that was 10 tips that you can use to kind of succeed in that place. And so what was going to do is share first a little bit of context, because I think sometimes even just the name freelancer or the industry, as it will, can sometimes be can mean different things to different people, and where they're at in terms of their sort of working status as well. So we thought we'd just add a bit more context first to freelancing. We also have some real world examples, and then we'll also then open up to some discussion as well. So if everyone's good with that, let's kick off. I'm just gonna share my screen. Make sure that there we go. Don't worry, it's not a million slides. It's just like three or four, but two of them are the tip ones. All right, here we go. So for those joining us maybe for the first time, do a circle, and we describe ourselves as the only integrated platform bringing together and enabling the real future of work. And freelancing is a big part of that, because this is very much the now, but also the future in that sense. And we'll show you some statistics which support that fact too. So first, sometimes people kind of wonder as well on this topic, what is an independent doer? And you see in a lot of our wordings on the website, in the materials that we share, even if you're part of the WhatsApp group, for example, we call ourselves independent doers. So really, a freelancer is very much under that umbrella, but there are also others that might describe themselves slightly differently, like maybe if they're a fractional executive or a solopreneur or a content creator or something of that nature. But really, the key thing here is what we mentioned is a professional who operates outside a traditional employment structure. So not the typical corporate environment that you see in the past, but certainly a lot more modern, more flexible, more adaptable. And quite often, what we experience with freelancers is they're also bringing a lot of specialism to their craft. They maybe have worked in a particular industry or with certain businesses for a certain amount of time, and they're able to use those skills in a more independent way, while also making a living and being able to live flexibly, as well as moving seamlessly between opportunities as well. And the last point here really is an important one, which is maintaining their own benefits. So benefits being also basic security, which is a big thing that we preach for as well, but also autonomy. So having that decision, what you want to do next, when you want to do it, how you want to do it as well. And that all sounds very nice and everything, but of course there is a challenge right now, which is this sort of shifting economy, industry, how things are changing. As I mentioned, traditional structures still rule over many. The world is still typically designed for corporates, by corporates in that sense. And so even if you're working as a freelancer, as a contractor, as a fractional executive, you'll quite often find these challenges where you don't feel like you fit into the kind of box that you might see in a typical corporate environment. Despite the fact that the statistics show, and we'll show you on the next page as well, that almost 50% of the global workforce are in some self-employed, independent, freelance capacity. So, we're talking about a huge number of individuals that are needing a better solution to be able to do what they can do best, really. And that's a little bit of also why Do Circle exists as well. And so here's some of the stats for you. So as you can see, 48%, according to the World Bank, of the global workforce is self-employed, is a self-employed person. So that's another phrase that you'll see, freelancers or SEPs or contingent workforce, things like that. And as you can see now, it equates to 2.8 billion people. So we're talking about a huge number of people globally in various industries at various market maturities who are now able to offer their expertise and skill sets to these other businesses or to individuals as well. And there's a lot more demand as well, what we're seeing from the stats. So it's a positive thing in that sense. There are more corporates than ever using independent workers, freelancers, for example, than they did even during the pandemic, for example. So I think there's been a big shift from a cultural point of view in that sense of really normalizing it. And there are a lot of big corporate companies that are under pressure that aren't necessarily able to hire as freely as they used to, and they aren't necessarily able to bring the talent in or be able to afford the talent in that traditional structure. So there is a lot of benefits to corporate companies as well in having freelancers, entrepreneurs, that have worked in different fields be part of the business too. However, unfortunately, the downsides of that is that still many startups fail, and still many freelancers. And we kind of got a couple of stories teed up to talk to you a little bit about that. And maybe fail is too strong a word. Maybe we should have thought something a little bit different. But I would say stumble. They reach a point where perhaps they have to reflect and say, is this something that I can sustain? Is this something that I want to keep doing for the long term? And so really, there's a lot of help that's needed. And so, as you may be aware, Do a Circle as a member base, we have over 150,000 members globally now. And the vast majority of them are freelancers. I think 61% of the entire base are freelancers in some fashion. And so what we do is we try to regularly go to our member base and understand what challenges are you facing? What would you need more help with as well? And so some of the things that kind of come up, as you can see, is basic healthcare, access to health, which enables them to be able to do their best work. Um, Kind of also one of the reasons why we've had that topic in previous weeks as well around that. Being able to develop their networks, so being able to find and connect with more individuals, to be able to share knowledge, share learnings together. That's very much one of the big learnings. And then things like legal support. So that could be something as simple as making sure that your contract is going to protect you in that sense. If you're going to put together a proposal to a potential client, it could be something more like, okay, I want to work in a different market that I'm not familiar with. Do I have the legal right to work, for example? So there's a lot of information there that's it's not always accessible from going online in that sense. And so what we're going to do is we've got some tips here, and I think we'll start to dig into the tips shortly. But I think what we'll also do is just sort of pause on that and see if anybody has any particular kind of questions on what we just shared, or if they even echo any experiences as well. Because I think we have a few people on here who have worked in some freelance capacity. Would you say that there's any particular challenges that you're seeing? And then maybe while you're thinking about that, feel free to put that in the comments. Maybe we'll just also jump to Yasis if you want to talk a little bit about, because I know you've also gone through this yourself for a period of time.
Yes, thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I also did freelancing some time back. Obviously, we work with lots of freelancers and startups now from Doers Circle. And before Doers Circle, I was at Meta and I was involved in training startups as well as freelancers use Meta platforms like Facebook, Instagram. But before Meta, I also had a short stint as a freelancer or a consultant. I guess the terminology, as Jamie said, is one of the confusions. I guess some people use it as freelancers, some use it as consultants, some now use it as fractional consultants or fractional experts, and some as digital nomads. And in corporates, it's also known as contingent workers. But I myself at the time used it as consultant. Sometimes if someone asks, what do you do? I used to say like I'm a consultant. And what I really meant was like I was not attached to one company as a full-time employee, but I'm consulting for many. And I guess that's freelancing. I guess that explaining who I am from a professional point of view was one of the smaller challenges I had, but it kind of connects to how you pitch yourself to a potential client. Do I kind of pitch as someone who serves many, or do I also pitch as someone who would have just one or two clients as well? So that was something I had in terms of pitching myself as a problem. And in a way, it was a bit of an identity crisis, being in corporates a lot, and then startups, and then having had another corporate aspiration. I was just kind of gap filling, I would say, to be very frank. So I had this kind of identity crisis. Would I go as like a freelancer or a consultant? That's one thing I just wanted to share as a real experience that I had. But the second I wanted to kind of share was the challenge of sustaining. I had a couple of clients, and two of these clients were very happy with the work I was doing, and they were increasing the number of hours so that it became quite challenging for me to maintain multiple clients. So I had at one point three clients, but then the first client is increasing the number of hours for a week from like 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35 at one point, and then I only have like 5 or 6 10 hours left in a week, right? I also need to sleep. I also need to spend my time with family as well. So it became a little difficult because there was a bit of a mindset issue from the clients that this person actually is more suitable to be an employee. So we are increasing their hours. And eventually I got to a point with two of these clients where they offered me full-time jobs. And I wasn't interested in full-time jobs because I wanted to try this out and maybe later join full-time another corporate that I think would fit me better. But that time frame was more for a trial. as a consultant. And then I hit this kind of wall at times because my clients are offering full-time jobs because they feel I'm good enough, or in a way too good, that to kind of to let others have me as a consultant or a freelancer as well. So that was kind of the second challenge I had. And that kind of created sustainability issues, right? Because clients are now either increasing time and also wanting me to convert to full-time employment. That kind of challenges my ability to continue this flexible kind of work environment or work mode. And if I had the knowledge that I have today, I would have, I think, been better at managing my client relationships so that I set expectations as to how many hours I could spend on a certain client so that I can maintain multiple clients at the same time and I can sustain this as a business. I think I was a bit inexperienced in that sense, so I kind of gave in and let them increase hours in a way that I kind of had to deprioritize some of the other clients, and eventually hit a wall where I'm now almost a full-time employee and I had to kind of take a decision. I guess that's the second thing I wanted to share. But the third, before we kind of open up for others' experiences and questions, the third one was the rates. Because when I discussed with one client, I agreed on certain rates on a project base, but then there were others who wanted more on an hourly base. And then sometimes these clients are in similar industries, and then it started to kind of conflict in a way, because people perceive this as like, in a way, double standards, that I maintain monthly fees with one, which is almost like a salary based kind of consultancy, but then the other is hourly based, and then sometimes on project based also I have projects. So kind of financially creating a structure that can sustain and that is kind of fair by me as the provider, but also fair by the clients, was another challenge. I see a lot of discussion on this online now that people are more aware of building a freelance career, and we can discuss best practices, and then would love to hear and learn from others. But when I was a consultant or a freelancing consultant at the time, that was a challenge for me as to how do I price this properly, and how do I kind of make it more like a business so that there's a standard way of rate, like a pricing and rates for different types of services, or either as a person, this is my hourly rate kind of thing. So, Jamie, maybe those are the three things I would like to share as a start, but happy to share more as we go on, but would love to hear from others as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yes, this as well. I think we appreciate that. I think a lot of challenges I think other people would have as well. And I guess maybe a question I had as well, based on what you just mentioned, was, you mentioned at one point you had about three different clients at different times, and they were increasing hours and such. Were they also aware that you were servicing other clients as well? Or is that something that was sort of clear?
Yeah, it was clear. It was clear, but at the same time, the number of hours per client would be not that clear. So, for example, I had a client where I spent 2 days a week in person. And by the way, this is pre-COVID as well. So I used to go in. So 2 days in at one client, and then another day at another client, and then one other was like more virtual, but still go in when required. So they did know, but then the client who had 2 days of my time also wanted me to increase to three, another time four, and that's when they also offered full time. And then, but they knew that I had other clients, two other clients running as well. So yeah,
Yeah, that can be quite tough, I think, because as you said, like if they're familiar, if they know that you also have other workload, other commitments, having to juggle those things can be quite difficult. And you mentioned about rates as well. That's a common topic that comes up. We've got at least a couple of tips that we can help share with you. They are here. Just wanted to break up the session for today so that we don't just kind of go through slide after slide. But we'd love to get thoughts from those who are here in the room with us as well. So I can see a few people here. Maybe I might pick on one for now because I think I'd be curious to get her point of view as well. Suzanne, I don't know if you're okay if I can unmute you for a second, if you just want to share your experience, because I know you've also been working in large companies, but also working on behalf of large companies, and now also, making a go of it yourself as well. Like, how have you found that kind of solo experience, Linda?
Hey Jamie. Hi Assis.
Hey, Suzanne.
Perfect. So you can hear me. So
Yep, can.
yes, so over 20 years of experience in IT and now translating it into a solopreneur. But I'm finding that there's so much opportunity, and I'm falling into the same situation as Yassis, where there's not enough of me. So now I'm getting to the phase, and literally I've worked from a consultant, and I've become a solo entrepreneur, still contracting to my original company, but now I've opened the doors to more opportunities so that I can get more business through different channels. And I've just created so much networks throughout the years that there's so many people that says, I want you to work for me and I need you to do this, this, and this. So I am now at a crossroads, and literally it's a month in to me opening my company. And I've actually connected with other people within the network of how they actually scale and how do
Mm,
they actually start upskilling and training other individuals and younger upcoming people with my skills and the years of experience, which is a different sphere completely. I mean, it was daunting already just opening a company,
yeah. It's
and
interesting you say that actually. Yeah.
picking a name for the company. Um, yes, and then it's the websites and yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there, Suzanne, but there was a point you just mentioned actually, which I was gonna kind of ask you a question based on what you described, where you said there's not enough of you to go around in that sense as an individual, which I know is a challenge that others who work solo also have. And so I guess the thing I wonder in that sense is like, does that then does that sort of spark the, or is it a trigger point to say, right, actually, maybe what I have to offer could become a bigger thing, and therefore, as you said, like you can start to maybe train up some younger people to be able to do at least some of what you're doing. I think it's the balance between do they want only the skills and expertise and my brain as an individual, or is there also something that can be transferred and then shared, I guess.
yes. So right now, while I'm on this call, I am doing a VLOOKUP, and I could be using my time a lot more effectively. Then and then get someone else to do this. And I could be using AI at the same time. Um, but there's just smarter ways in doing things. I even got to the phase where I came to a crossroads, and it's like, do I find other people that I can give this work to because the customer needs it? And money and revenue is great, but my objective is that what what can we do for our customers? And this is what our customers need. But then it's, can you find a reputable person that you could refer, that you know? Um, and then that's me in a new landscape now because I don't know people and how they work. And this is I think the beautiful thing about Do a Circle is that once you've seen something work, then you start referring it to everyone because you know it works. Um, and yes, I mean, like Hey Sarah was great, from you from Do a Circle. So I think
Great. Yeah, excellent.
yeah, I mean, Do a Circle is great because you can understand the different capabilities that your network and your community is offering.
I appreciate that. The other point you just mentioned as well, I thought was really important is that when you're in this freelance role, or if you're in a role like as Justice described himself as a consultant, you would feel some pressure on yourself that's saying if I'm in a consultative capacity, then if I then say to somebody, you should use this tool or you should work with this person or this service or whatever it may be, then you are sort of every time sort of staking a bit of your credibility on that. And so being able to build almost your A team of people that you would go to if you needed to for certain things, and then being willing to maybe sacrifice an opportunity that you can't do right now, but actually would make a much stronger relationship with that client in the long term. And you know then that they will come back to you, and perhaps maybe the time will be right next time when you work with them to do something maybe even bigger and better, or something, equally as good.
I think this is one of the benefits about the way and the world, how it's revolving and evolving, is that I think COVID made us very closed off. But now, because of AI that's coming in, we have to start coming out of our shells and we have to start speaking to different people and networking. Um, to it's not going to the same job every single day, doing the same job. It's really being a connector, a problem solver for the community.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, and thank you, Suzanne, for sharing. And if I wouldn't say I'm an Excel expert, but if you need any help with the VLOOKUP, let me know. And I do. I've done a fair share of them. But AI is good for
Thank
that
you.
as well, actually. I did, as an aside, I got ChatGPT to help me write a very complex formula. I needed it to do like multiple if strings and things like that. And if you give it the conundrum, it will give you a good formula you can use. So that's just something as an extra tip, I guess. We will share the other tips, as I said, in a little bit.
Yes, I
Suzanne,
was thinking.
sorry, go ahead, Suzanne. Sorry.
I was thinking actually getting the upgrade of one of the AI versions so that I can really test it to the hilt.
I don't know if you're a Singtel member, but you can get Perplexity for free for 12 months. So have a look at that, maybe. You've got Singtel.
Perplexity Pro.
Yeah, I've done that as well. Yeah, they had all the adverts on the subway recently. So if you go on the
Okay,
Singtel app and then go into
got
the
it.
little perks bit, it'll be
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah, so there you go. We got 12 tips now.
There's a reason why I came to this session today.
I haven't tried this, but someone told me if you're on LinkedIn Premium, still you get Perplexity as well. You could go to your settings or the account area in LinkedIn. You could also get to Perplexity Premium as well. I haven't done it myself, so but I did
That,
hear this as well.
I mean, it's
I
$20 a month for Pro.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can get some good value out of it, even if you do pay as well. I think it just depends on what you're looking to do with it. But yeah, the free versions are becoming a bit more limited now. I think that's their model, right? Get you hooked, and then you kind of go to pro. But
For
yeah,
sure.
thanks, Suzanne. Would be
Jamie,
good to
I
jump to
just
someone else. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes,
I
yes, yeah.
just want
Sorry.
to mention one thing about scaling as a freelance. I think Susan, you kind of spoke about that as well. And
Hmm.
although I didn't do freelancing for a long time, so I didn't come to this point of like not being able to scale my freelancing consulting business as much because I was only dealing with like 3 clients, and then I moved on to a corporate job. But I started to see that problem myself, like I have only 40 hours a week, and like I can only manage 2 or 3 clients max. And then how do I scale this? And I've seen lots of other freelancers face this problem as well. I guess that's a good problem to have. Like initially you might only have say 5, 10 hours a week being filled in a given week, but then towards as you grow, you might have 35 hours, 40 hours a week, 45 hours a week being billed, and that's a good thing. And you're slowly growing. But then you hit a ceiling because you can't grow more because you're only one person. You can't clone yourself and take more work, right? And I guess that's the shifting point of being a freelancer and then like becoming a more startup kind of CEO kind of shifting shape. And if you see that point, I've seen freelancers who kind of reach that point a little early and start to have a junior person involved, two junior people involved, so that they can outsource or at least delegate some of the routine tasks. I mean, say for example, the VLOOKUP that was just mentioned can be done by an analyst or a junior person, so that you free up some of your time that can be spent on more value adding tasks, so that you can also accommodate your fourth client, fifth client. But by the time you're adding your fifth, sixth client, you will need your second person, second junior freelancer to come on board, the third junior freelancer to come on board as well. You're basically shifting from that freelancer role to a more startup CEO role where you're actually building a team around you. And I've seen people who make that transformation and build a more of a agency business or a consultancy business, which is not just a freelancing business anymore. It's a company now running. And I guess that's also something that I started to face, but then I've seen other people really transform and convert into businesses. So maybe I wanted to share that as well in case someone's kind of hitting that ceiling. Maybe it's time to think of how you find time for more value-adding tasks where you can bring more clients while some of the routine tasks are delegated to junior consultants or junior freelancers.
Do you have any solutions to help get these junior people?
We can try, Suzanne. I mean, right now we
Okay.
don't have a job board or like a freelancer pool on the platform. We are building that. It's on the roadmap,
Oh,
but as a case on a case by case basis, we can start looking at helping you as well, Suzanne. But this is coming as I will later. But happy to have a
great.
chat offline.
Perfect.
Okay, let's pick somebody else as well because I'm curious. I'm gonna pick someone else and then hopefully they don't let me down and they can talk. We're gonna go for Oliver because Oliver, I know you've joined us on a few calls as well. I'm curious to get your point of view. If you'd maybe give us a minute or two as well to share your own experience. Here we go.
Can you hear?
Hi, Oliver.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ken.
Okay. So I actually this is kind of my second stint as a well, okay. So right now I'm not quite freelancing yet. I'm not in a corporate job. I'm trying more as a solopreneur route. So I'm trying to build a product. But in so around 5, 6 years ago, I was going the freelancer route. It did get to a size where we did need to. I was with a partner, and we did need to start hiring employees, and that was stressful. It was I've managed people before that, but like making sure people are fed, that's really stressful. It's not something that I'm uh, yeah keen to do for consulting. I think if it's more of a product, then it's kind of an easier or a better fit with my uh, capabilities. I think for freelancing consulting, what was very difficult for me was the business development. Um, I think, yeah, Suzanne, I think sounds like a very much a people person, good at connecting. I should have that. You know, I'm not as strong there. So I think it's important to know your strengths and your weaknesses. And I think I was getting good business deals with people that I had been familiar with, that I worked with in the past. But then coming up with new business was quite difficult for me. And then that became, again, more stressful once there were employees that had to be fed. So I would maybe just caution people that it is like hiring people is kind of a momentous decision, and really needs to be done carefully.
I think thank you for that experience as well. I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's no mean feat, and I know we've seen a lot in the news over the last sort of 18 months of big companies laying off hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people in that sense, and it feels like it's something that's just done on a whim. But the reality is, a lot of small businesses are also face their own pressures, and when you're that close as a team with a few individuals, it can feel especially difficult in that sense to be able to sustain that, if work is going up and down. So yeah, I appreciate that. And the other point you mentioned I thought was interesting around business development, because I think that's another thing we do hear, others that we work with, especially, I think we talked about this topic actually earlier this morning. Like if you're a consultant, for example, and you're working on an independent basis, you could be an expert in your industry, in your field. But does that mean that you're necessarily someone who's particularly business savvy? No, because maybe that's just not a skill that you either enjoy or you've learned over time in that sense. So to be able to then go and you almost have to be part sales, part marketer, part accountant, part your expertise that you're doing, to be able to do it all in that sense. And that's why I do sometimes say to people, you almost have to think about yourself as a business of one. Even we're not talking about hiring, but just as a freelancer, you have to feel that way at least when you're engaging with people, because and one of the tips I've got, so I'm sort of hinting at it, is to make sure that all your costs are accounted for in that sense, because I think a lot of people undersell those other things. Like maybe if you have to use tools to find your new business, then that should also be accounted for in your overall costs to your clients. But yeah, it can certainly be easier when you have that word of mouth. But to be able to build up enough word of mouth work, you also need to go out and put yourself out there. So it can be tough. But yeah, thanks, Oliver, for sharing that. Yes, did you have any questions for Oliver?
No, Jamie, maybe we can get to the tips slide as well, and then open up for questions and conversation again as well.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll share the screen again. The tips, because we've started to hint at what they are as well, so you'll be able to see that. Okay, here we go. So tip number one, define your specialism. And I think we've kind of touched on this point just through a couple of conversations just now with Suzanne and Oliver, which is, where can you as an individual offer value above others in that sense? And I should sort of expand on this just a little bit and say that there may be an ideal industry you'd love to work in, but you have to also work out that the value that you can provide, is that something where there's enough of a market that wants what you have to offer in that sense as well. As an example, I think I saw in some of the research where somebody said, like, I'd love to do brand marketing for indie bands, but if indie bands don't have the money to spend on brand marketing, then you're going to hit a wall very quickly in what you want to deliver in that sense. So defining your speciality, where's your niche, where are you offering that value? It certainly then establishes your credibility, and both Suzanne and Oliver sound like they've got a lot of experience in what they're doing as well, and that can of course help you narrow down what that niche should be as well. Yeah, it's certainly going to help you be able to segment yourself when you are proposing your services to businesses too. And also, quite often these businesses that want to hire these type of work, they're looking for a particular topic as well, so it makes them easier to find you. Secondly, a strong portfolio. So being able to kind of take the points from point one the value you offer, the specialisms that you have there, and then clearly communicate that, your best work that you're doing. And one thing, and this is probably, with a sales or a business development mindset, or maybe you could say a client management mindset, is to be able to get regular feedback from your existing clients or previous clients you've worked with, and make sure you get testimonials. If, for example, you've had a meeting with somebody and you presented a project to them or an idea, and you could see in their reactions that they really liked it, get that feedback, put it in writing if you can, share that along with your portfolio. All those little things are going to help you build your credibility along with the specialism that you have to offer as well. And quite often businesses or individuals are willing to give you that as well. So it really helps you to develop what you need to do further beyond that as well. So certainly would recommend that as a second tip as well. Now, third tip, optimize your online presence. So we did have a session. I think it was our first session with Alex of Web Dorks, and he was talking about how you can be found online more as a freelancer as well. So we're kind of like repeating a little bit of that in the sense, there are existing platforms out there. There are freelance platforms that you can put a portfolio on, that you can have a profile on. There's things like LinkedIn, of course, as a professional networking tool that you can use to connect with others as well. I know that some people are not big fans of LinkedIn in that sense. I do quite like it, but I also can see why people have their frustrations as well. But I would certainly recommend, even if you don't do every single day on there, but like try to post maybe once a week. That way, then at least your content, the value you're offering, can surface to potential people in your network as well. And the thing with these sorts of things like LinkedIn is quite often, what you want to do is you want people to think of you when the time is right. So the skills you have, the portfolio you've got are all great, and people might remember that at that moment. But if it's like 1 or 2 months later and now the project's starting, you want to make sure that you're the first person they contact. So that's why if you're in their, in their thought space, and that's why you see some of the biggest brands in the world continue to do advertising. You see like the Coca-Colas and the McDonald's of the world still spend a lot of money on advertising because they want to make sure that they're in your mind when you have that trigger point. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, whatever it may be. And then the other point here, which does follow on from that session, is about having a web presence, so a website. You don't need to have a whole singing, whole dancing website. You can have a single page where you list your portfolio, but that can certainly help you be found. So you can optimize on certain keywords, and can do a session on that alone probably as well. But then at least you've got somewhere that you can link to too. So when you do send that email to somebody, or you do send them a WhatsApp note, you can say, hey, you can check out some of my work here, and it'll be your own website with your own content on it, which I think is always a good thing. And then we'll do the last two here, and then we'll just pause just for any questions as well, and then we'll go to the 5 afterwards. So point 4 here is invest in learning and upskilling. So I think we touched on this on a previous weekly session as well. There was a recent Singapore government meeting, and they'd mentioned how they're really emphasizing to the Singapore society to keep investing in new skills they can learn, sometimes reskilling. We've worked with partners like General Assembly, for example, where there are professionals in the midpoint of their career, and they're now looking to reskill or upskill to potentially do something different. Maybe they've been in the corporate world and they want to now become a freelancer and work in a different field. The nice thing about this is you can try and fill your time between projects, for example. So at least that way you're still kind of doing that self-improvement, but make sure that those skills are also reflected in your portfolio as you go as well. And then you never know, you might develop another specialism or another passion that you can use for step 1 of the tips here as well. And then last point, I'll just pause before we do questions, is on productivity tools. Suzanne, you'll see a couple of these that ring a bell as well on your side, I know. But there are tools out there. Of course, we talked about AI. The ones we've got here in the list just on AI. So Claude, I would personally recommend if you want help from a content point of view. I think as an engine, it's probably one of the stronger ones in terms of giving you more human-like writing, which can help you to sort of get your thoughts out there in that sense. And it also does a bit more kind of critiquing of the work you've done. So it will tell you like, the tone of this, or it's not very persuasive, or whatever it is. So I'd use that. Then you have things like ChatGPT, which everybody should be quite familiar with. One you may not be familiar with is a tool called Napkin. So Napkin lets you put in a prompt and it will generate you a graphic. So that's quite cool. You can check that out as well. And it's free to use. And then Perplexity, which we touched on, really great for research. So you can use that to find maybe statistics or use it to crunch some numbers for you as well. So those are good. CRM, a CRM tool would be something you can manage your existing customers, your historical customers, and then potentially future ones as well. And you don't need to get like an all singing, all dancing package as well for a CRM. But even the most basic CRM tools like a Monday.com, even a HubSpot Basic or Zoho, something of those natures, they're all very good at just helping you organize what you've got. So if you understand, okay, I'm working on this many projects, I've got these potentials in the horizon, these are the ones I did before, this is how much I charged, this is how long it took, you can get all that learning, which is going to help you be more organized for future as well, maybe prevent some of that burnout happening. So yeah, there's a few tools there, and we'll just pause if there's any questions, because I've got it full screen at the moment, so I can't see if there's anything coming in. Yes, is there any questions from the group?
Oh, I don't see any questions. Maybe we can open up for conversations, Jamie.
Oh, we did have a point earlier in the chat. Sorry, I didn't see that, when it says red flags when it comes to hiring freelancers. Is that a question of what are red flags, or there are red flags that they experience? Maybe if you could just expand on that a little bit. We'll wait for that question for now. Maybe to Suzanne and Oliver, just because you're here as well, like those tips, do you find any of those kind of close to home? Or we have somebody who's put a hand up as well. Right, let's bring them in as well, just while. Hi there.
Hey, this is Michael. Can you hear me?
Michael. Hi, Michael.
Yeah, great. It, on the point about upskilling and ongoing training, I really appreciate that point, and I think it's really important. And I don't know, this is more of a comment, I suppose, but it'd be really great with a group like Doer Circle to be able to get people's feedback or vet some of these, upskilling opportunities. So, for example, I'm currently faced with, I want to learn more about a certain aspect of AI from the policy kind of side. And on the one hand, I found this one short program that's $1,000 US. And on the other hand, I found something quite similar that is move at your own pace, and it's $50 a month. And, the way I read and consume, I could be finished in a month. That's a big disparity in cost. It could potentially also be a big disparity in like the quality. So, I don't know if there's space already in the, within the community to share these kinds of feedbacks and tips. I guess it's more of a thought / comment, if anything, because it really is important, especially with technology evolving so quickly.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, Michael, and thanks for sharing that as well. I think, we don't have anything at this very minute on that, but the beauty of the member base and how wide and varied it is in terms of its, the industries they work in and the skills that they offer as well, is that we can go to them and ask, really, and see, okay, what is your experience in that sense? What have you found has been good? What would you want to do differently? Because yeah, you wouldn't want a scenario, I guess, where you maybe outlay, $1,000 is a lot of money in a freelance point of view as well, to then maybe feel like you came to the end of it and you're a bit disappointed, to be honest. I think when I look at any upskill courses, I try to see, okay, what's the course, you can look at reviews and things like that as well, but also what are their policies on on. I've seen some, for example, they will offer kind of a money back guarantee within a period if you're not happy or something like that. If they're willing to, I suppose, stake their their credibility and say, look, we absolutely back what we're doing from a project point of view, then that can be useful. And then there are other larger platforms that have sessions on there, things like Udemy as an example. LinkedIn have LinkedIn Learning, for example, and I think they have a bit of a vetting process in terms of the types of courses that are offered through there. So that can at least give a little bit of reassurance that the quality is there. But of course, it still kind of comes down to what you mentioned. Like if there's something particular you're looking for, like you're talking about AI from a policy point of view, then it's being able to sift through the differences in that sense. And I'll admit as well, from my point of view, from a personal point of view, sometimes I'll use something like Reddit, for example, which again, like people quite willing to share unfiltered opinions and things on there, because usually you'll see if somebody kind of comes in with a bit of a salesy message, they kind of get shut down. So you can at least get some good feedback there. So sometimes that helps, but of course, yeah, like if you've got something in mind, please send us a note after this, and we can ask around the member base. Oliver? Yeah.
Maybe to kind of Michael's point, more general point about being able to ask the member base. I find the WhatsApp group kind of intimidating because it's so many people. I don't want to ask kind of a random question. If there were like a Slack group, and I think that can be free, it will be limited history of messages. But then that might be easier for people to ask questions, that they can go into an appropriate, like an AI channel, and say, hey, has anybody tried this course? Would that
Yeah, that's a
be
fair
something
point.
that Doer Circle would be able to do?
Yeah. We could definitely look at that. I mean, some of the team are using Slack on a day-to-day basis. I was also wondering in that instance if there might be a solution where if you wanted to say send it to one of us in the team and then we could ask it, but without, as almost as an anonymous question. But if you was feeling less comfortable in pushing that out, we could do that as well. As a way to try and get some feedback on that as well. But yeah, I take your point that and the chat's growing as well. I think there's been another sort of 5 or 6 people who've joined in the last couple of days as well. And there are more and more people jumping in now. And we're also trying to have groups for different markets. So perhaps maybe another solution as well, alongside the things we just mentioned, is as we keep expanding that side of the community, maybe we break it into some smaller subgroups as well, so that maybe it might only be, for example, it could be just the fractional executives of Doer Circle, for example, that want to have a conversation around the topic of fractional working, for example, whereas somebody else might want to be in a different group. So we could look at doing that as well. But yeah, let's definitely see how we can get that for you, because I think you raise a very valid challenge that other people have as well, which is that they're not necessarily feel that comfortable sort of pushing out something to a big group of people and how everyone will respond. So yeah, would love to help you with that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Oh, we did have another question. Sorry. So what's the best way to find mentors as a freelancer for someone building from zero to one? Oh, best way to find mentors. Do you want to take that one, Yasis?
Yeah, I guess this is something that we are planning to introduce in the coming weeks to kind of have a mentorship program. Some of it would come from our members who do provide mentorship as a service, but some of us from Doer Circle would also kind of open up channels so that we can also mentor our members in the areas that we are kind of experts in. For instance, Jamie leads sales and marketing for us, and he could potentially mentor someone starting new in a freelancing career as to how they can get more clients and how to build this freelancing career or a model as a business. So Jamie could be a mentor. I mostly lead partnerships and operations at Doers Circle. So especially on the partnership side, I could share some of my experiences and learnings with someone else as well. And then we have similar leads in our company, our platform as well, who could provide that kind of mentorship. So we are planning to kind of launch those channels onto the platform in the coming weeks. But in addition to do a circles team providing that kind of mentorship, we would also be able to provide mentorship as a service from our ecosystem as well. So this is an area that has been flagged earlier, that freelancers as well as founders need mentors, and we need to be able to provide that support for our community. I guess this is also in comparison with a corporate, Jamie, where in a corporate environment you have your manager, you have your kind of corporate ecosystem where you have a training department. HR brings in coaching, training, and all that as part of their planning for the organization, and then they implement that through the year. Whereas in a freelancing or a more flexible career, you don't have that luxury of being guided by your manager, your senior manager, your HR, your coach, your training department. So then as a platform and a community organization for startups, founders, freelancers, we have that responsibility to provide that support and guidance for our members. So this is something that we are working on. So yeah.
No, that's a great answer. And I thought of something as you were talking as well. And like, I know I've mentioned this before on another call, so sorry, I'm saying it again. Maybe I'm a little bit of a fanboy, but there's a book from the founder of AppSumo, a guy called Noah Kagan, and in that book he mentions how at their business they really emphasize having mentors with all of their sort of management team, which again, as you mentioned, yes, this is something that businesses can facilitate. But in the instance that you are your business of um, one of the things he suggested is, and of course, this will be very finance dependent, so you might not necessarily be able to do this. But what he did before he had, cracked things with what he was doing at AppSumo, is he would reach out to people that he really respected in the industry or were successful, other businesses, maybe someone who was like the chief financial officer of a major company or something like that, or the chief marketing officer of another business. And he would send them a direct message on LinkedIn and say, really love the work you've been doing. You know, would we be able to jump on on an hour call or something like that where we can catch up? And I'd be happy to kind of compensate you for that as well. And some of the instances, what he was doing is he was offering, you know, $250 or $500 or something like that. Basically, what might be, quite a high hourly rate in that sense. But his argument was that he didn't have 10,000 hours to learn a particular industry or skill, but he knew there were other people out there that had already got that. They've done the 10,000 hours. And so if he could try and distill that into a small amount of time, then you can do that from a mentor point of view. So maybe that's another idea. Again, maybe you need to slightly deeper pockets in that sense. You don't have to go that high. You could just maybe look at, if you're in Singapore, you could look at a Singapore business that you respect, somebody who's in a strong position, and see would they be willing to give you an hour of their time. And then that could develop into a more ongoing mentor thing as well. People quite often will be willing to help if you ask, but you have to make that ask. Otherwise, they don't know that you need that help. Yeah, hopefully that was another answer for your question there as well. Any more? I know we're just hitting time. I was curious to maybe bring one more person in if they didn't mind as well, which was Marcella. I know you joined us, and I know you're currently sort of studying in that sense, but it would be good to get your point of view because I know you're working with General Assembly and maybe looking to pivot a little bit from a career point of view as well. So if you maybe just share just for a minute about what you're doing, because I think it sounds super inspiring from when we caught up before.
Hey, yeah.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you?
Well, I've been enjoying all these sessions because you're right, I'm transitioning. My background is in product marketing. I've been working in startups for the past 5 years. And then I thought I wanna like make a change. And that's why I joined General Assembly. And what's interesting about General Assembly is that I got a subsidy by the government. And one of the requirements for me to enjoy the subsidy fully is to either get a job on the field that I'm studying, which is UX design, or start your own company. And I'm leaning towards the second one. And that's why I've been interested in all your sessions. So I kind of have to register a company. So yeah, that session with Hazer was quite helpful. Yeah, I've worked freelance for a bit in the past. A lot of ad hoc works for branding, or website design, but not so much on like specific UX or app design. So yeah, I'm thinking to register my business probably after the end of my course, mid this year. And yeah, definitely will be checking out Door Circle's platform to see how I can benefit from you guys.
Yeah, we'd love to help however we can. I think it sounds really exciting, and it's gonna be a fun journey. But you're well on the way, which is good.
Yeah, thanks. I also bought the book that you recommend last week. But I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
get to launch anything in the weekend. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, take your time. I mean, I read that as well, and I was like, I don't think I could do it on the weekend because I've a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old who are very demanding of my time, which I love to give, but also, yeah, I can't necessarily do it fully from work point of view. But yeah, I realize as well, I'm so sorry to everyone that we didn't share 6 to 10. So I will share my screen so you've got it. And of course, I appreciate if you need to jump off, we can send you the recording as well. So sorry, we've gone over a couple of extra minutes, but let me just pull up 6 to 10 for you as well, and I'll very quickly go through them. But they're quite self-explanatory, at least anyway. Guess this was the good thing, I guess, about having all this interaction with everyone is that we probably went a little bit longer than we thought. But here we go. Here's 6 to 10. So to complete our 10 tips. So 6, set clear expectations, define your scope, the deliverables, deadlines. We've got a document resource that you can use that will help you with that a little bit. Try to negotiate on your payment terms, get upfront payment if you can, because that's really key. We know that cash flow can be a challenge, especially when you're working in a freelance role. Communicate is key, and I know it's hard, especially, as we've spoken to people on the call, it's not always easy to make an ask of these things. But try to get in the mindset of just responding as quickly as you can. And I said this, like, send a holding message. Like, sometimes if you don't have an answer, the best thing you can do is just sort of say that I've received your note. I'll come back to you as soon as I can. That way, you at least, you're still setting the right expectation with them as well. Know your worth, probably a really important one really is market rates. I know Yes has mentioned this earlier, like how to charge hourly versus project. You can do some research. AI can help you with some of that research as well. But as I mentioned, the business of one, think about what your overheads are. So if you have costs, maybe you use technologies or tools, or you need to travel for some of your work. Think about all of those overheads and incorporate that into your costs, because a business would be doing exactly the same thing. And unfortunately, what can happen sometimes is a business thinks, okay, I can cut away all those costs and just pay what the hourly rate would be of a freelancer. And the reality is then that freelancer is getting underpaid for the work that they should be delivering, because they're having to pay all their overheads outside of what they make, as a bottom line. So very important. But then once you do get paid, you need to make sure you manage that effectively. So tracking your earnings, again, we have an earnings tracking document that you can have a look at, in the resources as well, and your costs if you're getting paid on delivery. And then one thing that we saw as a good tip shared by another member, which is having an emergency fund. So if you think there might be some downtime coming up, 2 or 3 months maybe, where you haven't got any projects on the horizon, make sure you have that amount covered in there in a fund, and maybe think to start putting something in that straight away when you've done your first couple of projects. That way, at least you have a buffer period, so you're not, you don't want the stress of that, and you're then deciding, okay, do I have to completely stop this because I can't financially sustain? And then lastly, enjoy the flexibility. One of the main reasons people tell us they do freelancing is because they want that flexibility. They want to be able to work at the hours that they choose to, the autonomy. So enjoy it, but make sure you set the right boundaries, manage your time so you're not burning out. Set some time blocking. So yes, as mentioned about time management as well as a challenge as well. And that's an ongoing thing. But yeah, you want to make sure you can balance that work-life side of things as well, because otherwise you're going to end up you might find yourself working even more hours than you would in a corporate environment, or and then getting burned out. So yeah, really important. Hopefully these were useful tips. Let's see, there's something in the chat. Is that what we got? Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So we've got another suggestion for another session. So we will definitely take that on as well. So thank you for sharing that. Any more, please do send us a DM about it. I'm mindful we've kind of gone over a little bit over time. So thanks everyone for your patience on that. And hopefully these tips were useful. And yeah, we're here to support you in your freelance journey. However we can, let us know. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye.
Thanks Suzanne, Oliver, and Marcelo as well for sharing. And Michael, I think he had to pop off, but thanks also to Michael. Cool. Yeah, oh, I can show you those tips. Sorry, I can see. One sec. Yes, just don't end it. Give me just a second. Din, I'll share my screen a second. Tips 1 to 5. We can send you the recording as well if you want the recording, but here you go. Here's tips 1 to 5. If you want to screenshot that or something, feel free. I'll give you like 20, 30 seconds and then I'll stop. Cool. And there's 6 to 10 as well.